The woman in front of him leaned against the railing, unable to move. She offered no resistance to the man filled with desire. Her lips slightly parted, her neck slightly raised. She looked lost in a dream. But just as they were about to take the next step, the man suddenly stopped. Pretending to be a gentleman, he claimed he wouldn't ruin her purity, then turned and left, leaving the woman alone and helpless. This woman's name is Sonoko, the daughter of a local landlord with a wealthy family background. During the Showa era, Sonoko was quite unique. She refused to conform to societal feudal norms, but had to bow to her family's wishes. The soldier at the beginning is actually Sonoko's lover, with whom she had a free-spirited romance. However, due to the wartime chaos, her first love went to the battlefield, and Sonoko lost contact with him. As the eldest daughter, Ja had to shoulder the burden of inheriting the family business. Yuenzi could only follow her parents' arrangements. The family introduced a good match for Yuenzi, a man named Amemiya. With his refined features and impressive demeanor, he was a longtime family friend of Sonoko's. As he sat there, his gaze was frequently drawn to the elegant and beautiful Sonoko. To increase his chances of being with her, Amemiya earnestly declared that he had switched from the literature department to the engineering department. He chose the higher-paying department to ensure he could provide a secure life for Sonoko. He promised to give Sonoko a happy life, and her family was very pleased with Amemiya. Although Amemiya's words earned high praise from Sonoko's family, in Sonoko's eyes, it was merely an excuse for Amemiya to avoid military service, now disguised as a noble reason to give her a happy life. Sonoko directly retorted to Amemiya, which made everyone present feel awkward. Her mother had to step in to smooth things over, repeatedly saying that Sonoko was just being immature. However, Sonoko's stubborn expression showed she didn't think she was wrong. But even a woman with her own ideas eventually succumbed to family pressure. Seeing her father on his deathbed, she couldn't bear to let him pass away with regrets. She finally compromised and married Amemiya while her father was still alive, allowing him to witness the wedding. Thus, Sonoko ended up marrying Amemiya, becoming the person she despised in her heart. Although Yuenzi doesn't love Amemiya, it's clear that Amemiya loves Yuenzi deeply. On their wedding night, they knelt before each other. Amemiya promised to treat Yuenzi well in the future, but Yuenzi remained indifferent and expressionless despite the heartfelt confession. For Sonoko, the future seemed bleak. She only saw herself fulfilling her duties as a wife and mother. With no hope for her marriage, Sonoko naturally lacked enthusiasm for life. She was merely going through the motions. Soon, Sonoko welcomed a new life she had nurtured. Sonoko and Amemiya had a child, but the birth of this new life didn't bring Sonoko any joy. Instead, it solidified her current lifestyle, making her feel that she might never have the chance to escape it. Life goes on. Seeing her increasingly listless sister, Yoko decides to visit her. Upon meeting Sonoko, Yoko bluntly asks if Sonoko doesn't love Amemiya at all. Why compromise on such an important matter as marriage? Where did the sister with strong opinions go? Sonoko just sips her tea and calmly denies her sister's assumptions, unwilling to directly answer the question. Soon after, Amemiya faced a promotion but needed to work elsewhere. Before leaving home, Sonoko called her sister to her room and threw a letter in front of Yoko. It turned out that Sonoko discovered her sister had been corresponding with her husband. Seeing this, Yoko told her sister to open the envelope. Yuenzi didn't want to pay any attention. Rongzi opened the envelope and read the letter herself. During the years Amemiya admired Yuenzi, he kept sending her letters, but Yuenzi never replied. Seeing Amemiya's persistence, Rongzi couldn't bear it and wrote back to inform him about her sister's situation. After Yuenzi learned the truth, she felt sorry for her sister. However, Rongzi, in a fit of anger and shame, pushed her away. This woman is already middle-aged and can only use makeup to cover her aging face. Yet, she sits on a young, handsome man who looks pleased. She kisses him passionately, unaware that this shameful scene is being watched by Sonoko. In her new and unfamiliar neighborhood, Yuenzi was walking down the street when she saw a couple deeply in love. They couldn't help but kiss passionately in a small alley, and Yuenzi happened to witness this tender moment. She couldn't help but smile, feeling the beauty of such free love. At that moment, a handsome and upright figure appeared opposite. Their eyes met, and Kyoko felt a long-lost flutter in her heart. On the way home, her mind was still filled with the image of this vague, yet charming figure. But just as she was about to reach her doorstep, she ran into this handsome man again. It turned out that this charming man was her husband Amemiya's boss. Named Oki, the three of them planned to visit the landlady in the evening. In the landlady's room, everyone is chatting, and the topic of the kissing couple comes up. Amemiya finds it an incomprehensible act, but Oki counters, believing it to be a pursuit of freedom after the war, a form of free love that deserves respect. Sonoko is once again captivated by Oki's words. The man's thoughts were identical to her own. Sonoko couldn't take her eyes off Oki. Oki noticed Sonoko's gaze, as if it conveyed some emotion, making him shy and unable to look directly. But Sonoko was already deeply infatuated. After meeting Oki, Sonoko began to avoid intimate contact with her husband even more. Every time Amamiya hugged her, she would evade. Her heart had long been captured by Oki. Amamiya deeply loves Sonoko and never forces her to do things she dislikes. He always respects her choices. The next day, Amamiya regretfully leaves for a business trip. Sonoko, however, feels quite happy about his departure. This created the conditions for her to pursue her heart's desire. Perhaps the heavens heard her wish, and Sonoko looked up to see Oki. Their eyes met, and Oki paused for a moment before politely nodding and smiling in greeting. Sonoko couldn't help but follow him with her gaze, showing a shy, girlish expression. At that moment, it seemed like Sonoko had fallen in love. Her eyes were full of Oki, but this feeling could only be temporarily buried in her heart. With her husband away on a business trip, she found herself bored and decided to visit her landlady for some tea and conversation. As they chatted, she learned that the landlady's husband had passed away 20 years ago. The landlady had since grown accustomed to living alone and was quite content with her life. After the afternoon tea, the landlady invited Sonoko to play. Upon learning that Oki would also be there, Sonoko readily agreed. In the evening, they started playing mahjong. At the table, Sonoko's hand frequently brushed against Oki's fingertips. She couldn't help but glance at Oki. The chemistry between them was so palpable that even the landlady noticed something was off. She looked at them curiously, feeling quite displeased. But she quickly controlled her emotions and started a new topic, shifting the focus to her new neighbor to break the complex situation. It turns out the neighbor is an art student who, after failing his exams, reluctantly chose the path of music. He often plays the accordion, which annoys and draws complaints from the surrounding neighbors. One day, while walking down the street, Yuanzi saw the boy playing the accordion. She sat next to Ran, carefully appreciating the tune the boy played. After their last physical contact, Sonoko was even more certain of her feelings. She started dressing up and even used lipstick she hadn't touched in years. This time, her meticulous dressing caught the landlady's attention. When Sonoko noticed the landlady staring at her, she instinctively touched her lips. Before the landlady could ask anything, Amamiya angrily pulled Sonoko away. After returning home, she advised Sonoko not to visit the landlady's house anymore because the relationship between her and Oki was very abnormal. This relationship has been maintained since Oki's university days. Hearing this news for Sonoko, it felt like a bolt from the blue. Reflecting on her recent flirtations, she felt utterly foolish. After that, even when Oki passed by the window, Sonoko would hide behind it. Oki seemed to understand Sonoko's intentions. The man angrily tidied up his disheveled clothes, took a wad of cash from his wallet, and gave it to the woman lying on the ground. The woman, seeing the money, angrily threw it back at the man, scattering it all over the floor, just like their shattered relationship. Difficult to manage. At the dinner table, Sonoko couldn't bear her inner turmoil any longer and confessed to her husband, Amamiya, that she had fallen for Oki. This sudden confession left Amamiya at a loss. Although he was extremely angry, he suppressed his rage for the sake of their relationship. He admitted that he had been too focused on his work for too long and had neglected Sonoko, which led to her feelings. However, Sonoko didn't care. Since Amamiya married Sonoko, he has always followed her opinions and taken great care of her. However, his long-term compliance made Sonoko even more demanding. That night, Amamiya wanted to be intimate with Sonoko, but she refused no matter what. Unable to bear it any longer, Amamiya punched the wall in frustration. Faced with a woman who had already changed her heart, Amamiya felt utterly helpless. The severe sense of defeat made it impossible for him to hold his head high. However, Sonoko was only slightly startled. She didn't care if Amamiya was hurt. A few days later, Sonoko's mother and sister visited her with their children. The observant Yoko immediately noticed something was wrong between the couple. The large hole in the wall confirmed her suspicions. The atmosphere at home became quite delicate. Upon her inquiry, Amamiya explained the situation to Yoko. Yoko was also shocked. Why would her sister do such a thing? In the evening, Sonoko placed her hopes on her younger sister, Yoko. She knew that Yoko had admired Amamiya for many years and hoped Yoko would understand her. Seeing her obsessed sister, Yoko didn't know what to say and turned away, crying. Sonoko, unable to gain the understanding of her closest sister, also wept in pain. After sending off her sister and mother, she couldn't contain her feelings of love. While her husband Amamiya was asleep, she quietly went to the landlady's door, only to see her being intimate with Oki. This scene completely broke Sinoko's heart. However, Amamiya was still trying to win Sinoko back. He decided to take her back to Tokyo, hoping that distance and time would make Sinoko forget her feelings and return to him. Before leaving, Sinoko gently sent Amamiya away and rushed to Oki's house. She threw herself into his arms, confessing her feelings and expressing her longing for him. At that moment, Oki received Sinoko's affirmative response, and they decided to elope together. The two finally got together and began a happy life together. But things didn't end there. Sinoko's long-suppressed desires were finally released and satisfied. After that, she felt her feelings for Oki plummet, with no more passion. Perhaps it was the unfulfilled desire that had made her restless. She had given up everything for this man, but now she felt no love at all. She decided to break up. But this decision left Oki confused. He even placed a stack of money in front of Sinoko, using it to deny their relationship. Soon, Sinoko received news of her mother's passing. She returned to her hometown to fulfill her duties as a daughter. The room was still familiar, but her son, sitting at the door, no longer recognized her. He ran to his Aunt Yoko, treating Sinoko like a stranger. Inside, she saw her sister holding her son and her husband sitting nearby. Sinoko felt that they were the real family. Seeing this scene, she was genuinely happy for her sister. Romsey was finally with the one she loved, and Yuanzi truly let go of her feelings. She comforted her guilty sister, telling her to pursue her own happiness without worry. Then, she walked away, without looking back.